This dog almost died, and everyone walked past it, except for one person. This poor dog was barely clinging to life. Emaciated and in obvious pain, he looked like a shadow of what he once was. Countless people passed him by, ignoring his fragile existence, except for one. What happened next will bring you to tears. In many parts of the world, stray animals struggle to survive on the streets, often overlooked and forgotten. Every day, stray animals roam the streets in search of food, hoping that someone will offer them a forever home. Fortunately, some are rescued and adopted into loving families. But for many others, that day never comes. They remain in harsh, unforgiving conditions, never knowing the warmth of a cozy bed, the joy of a hearty meal, or the comfort of a loving embrace. Tragically, many stray animals pass away without ever experiencing the kindness and beauty the world has to offer. One such dog, Henry, wandered the streets of Argentina, teetering on the brink of survival. Yet, his life hadn't always been this way. Once, he had loving owners who showered him with affection and care. Henry's owners, a young couple, adopted him at a time when their marriage was on the verge of falling apart. Struggling with infertility, they hoped that caring for a dog would bring them closer together. From the moment Henry entered their home, tensions eased and their frequent arguments began to subside. They poured their love into him, providing him with the care and affection he deserved. And each night, Henry slept in between them. Unfortunately, a few months later, the arguments started again. And soon enough, the couple realized that they would be happier if they weren't together. So, one day, the wife left the house and never returned. The following month, the husband could no longer live in the house too. He was haunted by the memories of his wife, so he left the house, leaving the poor dog behind. The couple didn't think how the dog would survive without them. They forgot that he was once their source of happiness. Sadly, they were only concerned about their pains and struggles. So Henry, now alone, went into the streets to fend for himself. At first, people were kind to the stray because he looked cute and healthy, so they would often give him food. But when he started losing weight and looking scraggly, people started chasing him away. They no longer wanted him around. As time passed, it became more and more difficult for Henry to survive on the street. Sadly, the weather wasn't favorable, and it didn't take long before the pup caught a cold infection. Henry started sleeping in warm but dirty environments. Unfortunately, this only worsened his condition, and he developed a severe skin condition. The poor animal started to lose all of his hair. Afterward, he no longer had the strength to go out to search for food, so he stayed in a spot and spent the whole day scratching his body. In a month or so, the animal's condition deteriorated. He became so skinny, and all he could do was lay in a spot, waiting for his end. By this point, he had almost no hair left and was unrecognizable. He was so thin, and his skin was so dry and dirty that he looked more like a fossil than an actual dog. The sad thing about Henry's story is that he was out on the streets during the festive season. Since Christmas was fast approaching, the streets were bubbling with lots of activities. Everywhere was well decorated with Christmas lights and trees. Each day, people passed beside Henry, laughing and talking about their plans for Christmas. Yet, no one stopped to help the poor animal. When it was a week before Christmas, life started to slowly slip out of the dog. By then, he already looked like a skeleton. Everyone who passed beside him assumed he was dead, and those who could see that he was still breathing gave up hope. They didn't think the animal stood a chance. So they just looked at him, shook their heads in pity, and walked away. Henry himself knew no one was going to save him, but the pup was wrong. In fact, everyone who gave up on the animal was wrong because 2 days before Christmas, a Good Samaritan showed up, and you won't believe what you are about to see. On December 23, 2017, an animal rescuer, Lauren, visited her friend in Buenos Aires, Argentina. On getting there, Lauren heard that some lifeless animal was lying around somewhere in the neighborhood, and she decided to step in. Lauren ran around the neighborhood, and she eventually found the dog lying next to a house. She was appalled to see the condition the poor animal was in. His eyes, which were faintly opened, looked dull, and his skeletal and bony body was covered in sores. "I cried because I could not believe that no one had helped him," Lauren said. She approached the animal, knelt beside him, and in a loving voice, she said, "Hey." Just then, the dog looked Lauren in the eyes, and he groaned. His whimpering broke my heart terribly. It was as if he was trying to tell me that he was in lots of pain. Lauren recounted, "It's fine. I am here now. I will take you home." Lauren said, and the dog groaned some more. Lauren quickly placed the dog in a cage, and she rushed him to a veterinarian. She knew the dog could pass away if she didn't act fast. Once there, the veterinarian told Lauren that the dog could survive if he made it through the Christmas weekend. He also told the young woman that she would need to care for the dog round the clock. I was ready to give all it required to make sure the dog lived. So I dropped every other thing I was doing and focused on him. After the vet properly treated the pup, Lauren took him home so he could recover. She made a comfortable and nice shelter for the dog. Then she sat beside him and told him she would never leave him, and all he had to do was recover at his own pace. Sadly, despite Lauren's efforts, the dog refused to eat for the first 3 days, and he continued to lose weight. He had no will to survive, and I could tell that he had already given up. It was heartbreaking, Lauren said. Even though the canine refused to eat, Lauren gave him water every 3 hours so he could stay hydrated. She also sat by his side so he could see that he wasn't alone in his struggles. The first 3 days were crazy, and on 2 occasions, Lauren thought the dog would die. He really didn't look good at all. At some point, he was barely breathing, Lauren recounted. However, after the first week, everything changed. Henry suddenly started fighting for his life, and with each passing day, he got better. He started proving to me that he was much stronger than he looked, and I loved every bit of it, Lauren said. While recovering, Lauren would lift Henry and encourage him to walk, but he couldn't. Luckily, Lauren was very patient, and she would often tell the canine that she had all the time in the world. 3 weeks later, something beautiful happened. Henry suddenly got up and started walking on his own. However, after he took a few steps, he fell. Regardless of this, Lauren was delighted, as she took it as a sign that the animal was now desperately fighting to survive. The next week, Henry started moving about, although it was a gradual step. He would walk for 30 minutes, then fall. Later on, he began to walk for an hour before falling. And then he could go a whole day, then a week. And before Lauren knew it, the once lifeless animal was running around the house and jumping all over her. It was during this period that Lauren, who never knew the original name of the stray, decided to give him a name. I had been so overwhelmed with worry that it never even crossed my mind. He didn't have a name, and he needed one. So I decided to call him Henry, after the Greek god of strength and heroes. A fitting name for a dog who had endured so much and fought to survive. As he continued to recover, his strength returned, and his once barren coat began to grow back, revealing the resilient spirit beneath. After 2 months of love and proper care from Lauren, just look at Henry now. Isn't it incredible? Who would have guessed that beneath that frail, emaciated dog was such a bright, adorable, and lively soul? Initially, Lauren intended to put Henry up for adoption once he fully recovered, but their bond became so strong that she simply couldn't let him go. I'm so grateful that Lauren's efforts paid off, giving both the animal rescuer and her newfound companion a brighter future. Now, they can look forward to days filled with joy, love, and happiness. None of this would have been possible if Lauren hadn't taken a second look at Henry. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.